Now, before we begin modeling, there's a little bit of cleanup here I'd like to do. I just want to organize things a little bit better. First of all, I want to take these guys and I want to put them in a specific place. So if I hit the 7 key on the number pad, I'd like to move these maybe out to here. So if I click this and drag it in the x-axis to about right here, you can see that we're at about -2 in the x-axis. So I'm just going to click in here and type in -2, and that will pop it right at that point there. Now if I take this one, I can type in 2, and that will move that out to here. I can also take this one here, that's the back, and I can move this in the y-axis. So y, I can type in -2, and that'll move that there. And for this one, let's do 2 right here, 2 meters right there. So that gets them in very uniform places all around the center there. Then I'd like to create groups for the different objects here, or collections, I should say. They're called collections here in Blender. And so for this one, I'll just double click this and I'll call this reference images. And then I want to create another collection. I'll click this one up here and then right click, choose new collection. Here it is down here. I'll double click it and I'll call this reference objects. And I'll take the wheelbase and the height, control click that, and drag that into the reference objects. So now we've got 2 collections for the reference materials. For this one, I'll go ahead and unhide the wheelbase. And then I can just hide or inactivate this objects collection completely. I can just click here and inactivate it. Now we can also hide it, but if we just hide it here, you'd be able to see it when we rendered it. I mean, we could disable this as well, but I think it's sometimes easier just to inactivate it here. For the reference images, we want to leave those on for now, but my worry is that I might accidentally, in creating things here in the center, I might select one of these by accident and move it out of position. So to ensure I don't do that, what I'm going to do is come over here, and within the collections, you've got more toggles than just you can view here by default. You can come up here to this filters pull down, and you can choose other toggles to view. This one here I like. This is the selectable toggle, so I'll just turn that on, and then if we come back into the outliner, you can see we've got this new set here, this new row. And if I take this and I disable selection for this entire collection, that now means I can't select these images at all. I can't accidentally select them and move them out of place. They're there to stay. Now I can come through and I can hide them here, right? Or I can hide individual ones, but I can't select them here in the 3D view. And that's going to help out a lot once we begin adding our 3D objects here in the center. So speaking of that, let's go ahead and begin adding one of our objects for the motorcycle. And I think what I'd like to do is begin with the frame. There's this frame, this underlying frame here that's kind of holding everything within this space. And I'd like to create that first to get a sense of the space we're going to be working in. I do have an image here, a reference image of a chassis for this type of motorcycle. So I'm going to hover my cursor over this corner right here and click and drag, and that will create a new window. And in this new window, I'm going to change it from a properties editor. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to change it to an image editor right here. Now within this, let's click image and open, and I'm going to browse to the reference images. And in here, under the internet images, I've found a motorcycle chassis right here. So I'll click open image, and here we go. So if I want to maximize this image to take a look at it, I can press Control and Spacebar, and now we can zoom in and really see it. So what this is just a collection of tubes that have been welded together. And even though this is all one object as it is here, when it was originally created, it was clearly created by welding this tube to this tube and this tube to this, etc. And each of these pieces were welded onto it. So I'm just going to create it first as a collection of individual tubes. And we don't even need to create all of these tubes, but I think it's going to help to establish the boundaries of the motorcycle and where things need to go within this frame. So I'm going to press Control and Spacebar again, and let's give this a try. So to begin this, I think I'll hit the 3 key. So we're here in the right orthographic view. And I think you can see that chassis right here going down like this. And you can see that here, right? So let's just begin with, say, this one right here and create a path all the way around down to here to get that basic shape. So to create a path, once again, we're going to use that Add menu, which is Shift A, and we're going to come up here to Curve and Path. We click here. Now we can't really see anything until we tumble around, and there's that path right there. So it's a little too big, and it's aligned in the wrong place, but we can hit RZ90 and hit Enter, and it'll turn that in the Z-axis 90 degrees. All right, so let's go back to the 3 key here. Let's hit the S key and scale it down. Let's hit the G key and move this up, and then I'm going to just press the R key and turn it. All right, so we get it kind of in line with what we're seeing here. Hit the G key and move it right into here. There we go. All right, I'm going to scale it down just a bit. Get it right into there. Now that we have this generally in place, we can tab into edit mode, and you can see we've got points here that we can press the G key and move around. And as we do, you can see that curve right there. That curve is what's actually going to be there in the end. We're not going to see these points. So what we need to do is extrude this out and extend this on down around here. But before we do that, I think we need to tilt it. We need to angle it out. You can see here that it's kind of like an A-frame up front. It begins here in the center, but then it angles out to provide kind of the width of the bike down here. So if we go to the front view, we hit the 1 key. You can see here it is right down the center. But we want to angle it out so it comes out and once again gives us that width of the bike. Now if we turned it here, we could hit the R key and turn it. That's not quite what we want. What we do want is we want to turn it from this point and rotate it out. So if we tab into edit mode and select this one point at the top, we can move our 3D cursor and rotate around that. To do that, we can press Shift S for the snap menu, and we can snap our cursor to the selected component here, or the 2 key. So we click that, and there's our 3D cursor. Now if we tab back into object mode, we can come up here, pull this transform pivot menu down, and change our pivot point to the 3D cursor. Now when we hit the R key, there we go, we can rotate that out like that. So how far should it go? Well, that's a good question. We're not going to really know exactly how far until we begin getting more pieces on here, but it seems to me it comes out to about right here, right? Because it comes back and goes on either side of the rear wheel. So we could maybe bring it out about like this and try that. So there we go there. It's kind of angled out. We could go to the back view. I'll press Control 1 and see if we can see the back view here. Here's that chain, the chain drive, and that chain drive is going to be on the outside of these. So maybe we need to bring it back in just a little bit like this. Maybe right there, kind of in between the tire and the chain drive, right? So we're just trying to figure out from the different views where the different components are. Now we can see here, maybe that's the tubing there. And that tells us, yeah, that may be about right. Or is it on the outside of the chain drive? Let's see. I'm going to move that out here because you can see tubing here. Let's tumble around and take a look at the chain drive here. That's on the other side, so I'll hit the 3 key. And here we go. Yeah, it looks like that tubing is on the outside of the chain drive. Okay, well that's good to know, right? So let's now go back to Control 1, and we will put that on the outside of the chain drive right here. And this is the way it's going to be. We're just going to have to use our images to try and figure out where to place things. And the more things we place in the correct position, the easier the next object will be to place within the space of the bike. All right, so now let's go ahead and extrude this on down to the back of the bike. So all we need to do is select this point in edit mode. I've hit the tab key to go into edit mode. And now we can hit the E key and extrude out like this. And then E again. And I'm just going to go around here where I think that curve is. Maybe we can take a look at it here. And come around down. I'll hit the E key again like this. And maybe down to here, let's say. And back to here. And then we're going to want to angle this up again like this. And here. And on straight back to here. All right, so maybe I can grab this and hit the G key and move it down a bit. And we may have to move these around to get this black line in the proper place. But there we go. Now we've got that path. I'll tab back into object mode. We've got that path that's going to be our frame here. All right, so in the next video, we'll do a little bit more adjusting, like if I select this one, and turn on the move manipulator, and you can see that the move manipulator is here at the 3D cursor. I'm going to change this pivot point back to median point. And now we can move this back a bit, get these in line a little bit better. So that's what we'll do for our frame. In the next video, we'll continue on with this, create the other tubes, and get that chassis in place so we can continue on with some of the other objects. So that's coming up next.